have been with Young Living. This is our third year. We are, well, see, I would like to say we are executive leaders, but I recently seceded from my wife's business and started my own account because husbands and spouses could do that as of August. So I am a star in the making, diamond in the making, but currently sitting there. But yeah, we love Young Living. We love what it's been able to do for our lives, to help enrich our lives, the friends that we've made along the way, and that brings us to where we are today. So Tashina mentioned that we were going to talk a little bit about coaching today. And the goal of this speech or this interaction, because I'm not just going to talk to you guys, I'm going to ask for audience participation. But the goal is to get the idea of coaching and how it benefits you in your Young Living business or your Young Living lifestyle, okay? So my first question I have to present to the audience is, does anybody know what coaching is? Oh, your hand went up first. I got to call you. Go ahead and shout it out. What do you think coaching is?
Providing guidance to people to help them find their own way.
Yeah, that's a good one. Our young man in the back. No, I'm kidding. Yes, go ahead.
Motivating others to do difficult tasks.
Okay, that would be a great way to put it as well. Tashina?
A combination of teaching, explaining, modeling, and mentoring.
Okay, I like that one too. Julie, you have a thought?
I was going to say, helping us out of our own heads and out of our own way and think differently than what we currently do.
Ooh, I like that one. See, and the reason I asked that, you guys give your perception of what coaching is sometimes I need to understand where you guys are at. Now, a lot of times you'll hear people say that coaching is like therapy. Have you ever heard that? Or some people have probably thought that before. The difference is therapy helps people look at their past to understand why they do things currently, whereas coaching helps a person to look at where they are now and where they want to be in the future. So keep that in mind as we progress. The definition that I'll give of coaching is helping a person achieve their highest potential, identify their talents and strengths, often that others are unable to see, and establishing meaningful relationships with a person. That's what coaching is. So when you have a coaching relationship with an individual, that means that your engagement with them is uniquely positive, very candid. You are able to have demanding conversations, which I'll explain what that is in a little bit. And overall, help a person to improve the quality of their life. So can you think of how Young Living is able to improve the quality of someone's life? What are some of the perks or benefits of being a part of Young Living?
Healthier and happier.
Oh yeah, I like that one. Go ahead.
Money.
Okay. That's fine. Got healthier and happier. Go ahead, Leah.
Emotionally centered.
Oh, okay, that's nice. Karen?
Excellent relationships because everybody's like-minded.
Yeah.
So you support each other.
Oh yeah. I mean, look at the support here in the room, right? People that showed up. You risked your life. Oh, wow, that'll never get old for me. But one of the main things about that people have to understand about coaching, that whether you realize it or not, it's something that we probably strive to do every single day. So let's say, I'm going to ask this question candidly. How many people have shared Young Living with somebody else? That's just about everybody in the room, right? So that means at some point you volunteered to coach that person, whether it's in wellness and lifestyle, if they wanted to start a Young Living business, whether you've volunteered to be their coach or mentor and help them build a Young Living business, and so on. So you've taken on that role as coach. But do you guys think that because you've taken on that role that you automatically have the right to coach someone? No, coaching is something that definitely has to be earned. Now, there's three things that can lead to a person earning the right to coach someone else. The first one is authenticity. This is a major one, right? Because people can usually tell when you're not being yourself, right? And sometimes we do this within Young Living. We'll put on our oils and we feel like a totally different person, and we're like, hi, how are you? You like oils? I love oils too. You like money? I like money too. Oh yeah, vegan diet? I'm all about that, But is that really part of your personality? Maybe you're an oiler that loves ribs or burgers, you know. If that is not part of your lifestyle currently, then why fake it, right? Because people can tell when you're not being authentic. The second one is self-esteem. So you ever wonder why people are drawn to individuals that seem very confident? They're like a magnet for people, right? As soon as someone confident walks in the room, they smile. Everybody says, "Ooh, I want to go meet that person," right? That's because that person has a positive self-image or positive self-esteem of themselves so that they're able to influence and assist other individuals. And then the third one is noble intention. So remember when we talked about sharing and living? Usually when we go to share an oil with someone or we want to share the business opportunity with someone, what is our reasoning behind it? Is it just because we want to reach Royal Crown Diamond? Is it self-motivated just because it's about us? Those are things we have to think about. Do we have noble intent? Because really, we're not in the business of selling oils, right? We're in the business of helping people with their lives, enrich their lives, whether that is physically or financially, right? So we have to look at our intent. Sometimes we look at it for what's in it for us. Oh, if I just get this person started, ooh, that's going to be my next silver. I'm looking at you, you're going to be my next silver. But what if that person doesn't want that? What if that's not what they're looking to get out of Young Living? So really have to stop and think about that. The second pillar of being a great coach and helping a person in Young Living is to have a perfect partnership. The three things that I mentioned before, they help an individual to develop close relationships with individuals. But you want to partner with people and say, I'm going to help you on your wellness journey, or I'm going to help you on your business journey. I'm going to help you achieve the goals that you want. Not my goals, but your goals. So we definitely want to get that perfect partnership. And then this one is my favorite. This one is called Dangerous Conversations. I'm going to put this one out there. Does anyone know or have an idea of what they think a dangerous conversation is? Go ahead, Tashina.
So we have a training called Crucial Conversations. I can't remember the aspects of it, but it's basically when the conversation is going to be emotionally charged and the individuals might have opposing views but need to come to an agreement.
Okay, that's interesting. Leah?
In my house, it usually starts with, does this make me look fat?
Oh yeah, that's a real dangerous conversation. Teddy's not even here to defend himself. I don't know if that's the conversation you guys had before you left the house. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, one thing I look at is an analogy of you're going to climb Mount Everest, and you really are going to climb Mount Everest. So that's a very dangerous task. How do you go about doing it? Yes, you are going to do it.
Okay, we have a bingo. We have a winner right there. Dangerous conversations actually encompass a little bit of what everyone mentioned. Sometimes they're the conversations that we don't want to have. You know, they're the conversations that make us a little bit uncomfortable. But there's a saying that says usually when you're uncomfortable, that means that you're probably doing something right? Because if we're stagnant and we constantly avoid certain conversations or avoid certain situations, are we really growing and developing in life? Yeah, usually not. So those dangerous conversations we're going to touch on a little bit in just a few minutes, and we'll talk about the benefits of those, and I'll give you some samples. But I want to touch on the 4 coaching power tools and how this relates to you and your Young Living business. So think of the analogy of you have a house, right, that you're trying to build. Can you build a whole house with just a screwdriver? There's people who've tried. I mean, they didn't get very far, but hey, you can get an A for effort. Or can you maybe screw in a nail in the wall with just a set of pliers? No. So sometimes you have to have the right tool for the job, right? So we're going to talk about 4 power tools that are really important to have in coaching. The first one is acknowledgement. The second is big questions. That's part of those dangerous conversations. The third is intuitional perspective. And the fourth is silence. And we're really going to talk about that one. But let's touch on the first one of acknowledgement. So someone gets started, they get their premium starter kit, they're all excited, they got their oils, they got their diffuser. And what is the first thing that we probably want to do when they call us and say, hey, my order just came in? What should we do? Acknowledge it, right? Yeah,
Congratulations. Congratulations.
No, she raised it and she put it down. She said, she didn't answer it. But we want to acknowledge that, right? You know, this person is excited about their journey on regardless of whether it's their financial journey or their health and wellness journey, they're excited. So we want to acknowledge that. But more than just the product that they get, we want to acknowledge them as a person. Now, the one interesting fact about people is most people look for acknowledgement from other people. The good majority of personality types that are out there, they like to be acknowledged. I think of maybe a man meets a woman and the first thing he says, "Oh, girl, you're so beautiful. Look at you. You look so nice." And the women start saying, "Oh, thank you. You're so sweet." But they appreciate that, right? So have you thought about using some of these with people that you start with Young Living? You are a very interesting person. Tell me more about yourself. Or you have a wonderfully unique personality. Like, tell me your story. Like, why are you so unique? You're unique. What makes you unique? Or I see that you're having a very good or difficult time right now. What's going on? You want to talk about it? How about this one? I like you. You're nice. I like being around you. See, those acknowledgments, they help to make a person feel at ease. And the first thing that they feel is, oh, this person cares about me. Now I can open up and share more about myself, right? Wouldn't you agree? Nod your head yes. If you don't agree, you can nod your head no. That's okay too. So we definitely want to make sure that we acknowledge, and this is a very good way to even start conversations with people. So maybe you're at the grocery store and you notice something unique about them. Maybe it's the color in their hair. Oh, that's a very unique color in your hair. Or I like that coat. Where'd you get that coat from? That acknowledgement is a great way to start a conversation. All right, so the second one we talked about was going to be big questions. Now, usually if you ask somebody a question, it requires what?
An answer.
An answer, right? But I'm going to give you two questions that you'll want to avoid when you're coaching someone, okay? A big question usually does not start with why. Why do you want to join Young Living? Why do you want to build a business? Usually that's not going to be a question that's going to give depth to the answer that you're looking for. And then the second thing is you don't want to ask questions that convey advice. If I were you, I would do this, or I would do that. Instead, let's look at a few questions that we can ask that might help a person kind of come to their own decisions when it comes to Young Living and how we can kind of guide them. How about setting expectations? So I'm going to open this up to you guys. What might some common expectations be when a person joins Young Living?
That they get on the monthly.
Well, because, maybe you enjoy using it, you love the product, and you see how it can benefit their lives and other lives, the expectation might be, you know what? You're going to want to share that with everybody.
And they may not want to, right? Or let's say they've had dealings with another MLM before, and they're like, all multi-level marketing companies are all the same. And their expectation is that Young Living is going to be like that. Or maybe they've tried different similar products. I've tried oils before. Those things don't work. They didn't work for me last time. Maybe that's their expectation. So asking questions like these might help. What specific outcomes are you expecting? You just got your kid? Okay, what are you looking to get out of this, right? How important are those outcomes to you? What will be different this time? Yeah, I've tried one of those things. They don't work. Okay, that's understandable. But what's going to be different this time? And allow them to answer. Or what do you need to do so you'll have no regrets? Now, when you ask those questions, we mentioned that they need answers, right? We want to allow that person to answer it. And the hardest thing to do is not answer it for them, right? I see people smiling and laughing. Y'all the people that always answer other people's answers, don't they? Yep, I can tell right there, she's laughing. This is probably her, okay. All right, so what about investment questions? So let's say a person has decided that I really want to take off with my health and wellness journey. I really want to invest in Young Living's products and learn more about the oils. I want to learn more about my body. Or let's say a person is like, I want to learn how to do the business. Okay, here's some questions you can ask. What do you need from others? What do you need from me? Do you need me to give you information? Do you need me to teach classes for you? Do you need me to get with you one-on-one and walk you through how to sign up for Essential Rewards? What do you need? What sacrifices are you prepared to make? Right? It's very rare that you get something for nothing. Right? Think of a person that decides, I'm going to start exercising and going to the gym. They're going to have to give up probably some of the foods that they like, and they're probably going to have to give up some of their time and energy, right? But the rewards outweigh giving that up. What talents will you rely upon the most? So remember when we acknowledge the person and we notice certain things about them? What do they think are their strongest talents that they'll be able to utilize, that we can grow? Or how will you provide extra energy needed to create the change? Now this one's a tough one here, right? Because how many people work a 9 to 5 still? Just about everyone in here, right? So if you're working a 9 to 5, where do you find the extra energy if you want to go to the gym? Or where do you find the extra energy if now it's time to host a class? Or the extra energy to come to a rally in the middle of a thunderstorm? You know, sleep? Whatever.
Yeah, you take it from the sleep. Yeah. That's what you do.
But I can't tell a person that, oh, you're going to have to give up some sleep. You're going to have to give up sleep. If you really want to commit to this, you're going to have to give up sleep. I love my sleep, and if you tell me I have to give up my sleep, oh, no, thank you. So we have to allow people to answer these questions for them because the answers might be different. And how about accountability, holding a person to that? So when a person makes a decision for that investment, do you trust yourself to follow through with that? Maybe this is something that they've struggled with in the past. If anyone has ever listened to our podcast, we've talked about obligers, people who need accountability. This might be a struggle for them, right? Do you trust yourself to follow through? If not, you might have to be accountable to somebody. What specific commitments have you made? Or what promises will you make to others? And lastly, what promises have you made to yourself? So those are some questions that you could ask. They kind of give you an idea of what the person is thinking, so that you can kind of help guide and direct them. Now, the third tool that we talked about is called intuitional perspectives. So this is like where your own intuition has to kind of come into play. If a person gives you an answer, usually you're able to tell what about them? Yeah, that's one thing. That they're authentic. Or you're able to tell more about the person themselves, right? A lot of times we are what we talk about. So let's say, for example, that and I'm talking to another guy, and all he talks about is sports and football. Hopefully not the Lions, because they are really, really terrible this year. But if all he talks about is sports and football, what can I probably assume about him? He likes sports and football, right? So when we're having some of these conversations with individuals, remember that they are probably what they talk about. So if they talk about their families quite a bit, like, why are you getting involved with Young Living? I really want to help my family. Like, I really want good products. I want toxic-free living for my family, or I want to make an income and stay at home with my kids. If that's what they talk about, they're probably family-oriented. So making those statements to say, okay, you sound like a family-oriented person. Or, I think you're capable of that and much more. I see a completely different possible future for you. When you have that kind of intuition, then people are going to feel safe with you, number one. But they're also going to feel comfortable, and they're going to feel that, oh, this person really cares about me, and build that relationship. Now we're going to talk about the fourth and final tool. And this one is probably the hardest one to master. But if you notice, I did it 30 seconds ago. It's silence. Why are most people usually uncomfortable with silence? Any idea? Go ahead, Lee.
Because you don't know what the other person's thinking.
Yeah. What might be another reason?
Because it's making them think about something that makes them uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's a big one there. And Karen, you actually touched on something that's pretty huge. Did you know that the average person takes about 10 to 20 seconds to process a question? But what do we do sometimes is we're so uncomfortable with silence that we try and break the silence after 5 seconds or so. Or we start looking around or fiddling with something. We get that little grin on our face, that little smug grin that people are like, why are you smiling? But if we are asking deep questions about a person and getting them to think, they need time, right? They need time. So give them that 10 to 20 seconds. Think about this. If you can endure the discomfort that's associated with silence, then a person can really explore where they want to go. So let's say we've asked the question like, hey, you just got started with Young Living. I'm so glad that you came aboard and decided to make these changes in your life. What are you looking to get out of Young Living? And they say, what's the first thing they say is, I don't know. How often we've got that? I've gotten that numerous times. So. We still don't want to answer the question for them. Give them time to think. And we might even say something to the extent, no, really think about it. Like, what are you looking to get out of it? And just give them time. Because most of the time, if it takes 10 to 20 seconds for a person to answer that question, they really now have to start thinking for themselves, right? So learning to master the art of silence can help to deepen a person's thinking, to help focus on their most important values and aspirations, consider abandoning self-limiting assumptions and beliefs. Ooh, that's a big one. And fully explore emerging and radical ideas of possibilities. So sometimes even when we show them what Young Living has to offer, they may not have even known that it existed. They might need time to process that. So we have to learn to master the art of silence. Now, when it comes to the tools that I've given you, realize that coaching is all about self-discovery. It's not necessarily about discovery of myself as the person coaching, but the new person getting started. So therefore, that's why when we ask those questions, they're all about the other individual and allow them to answer it for themselves. So I gave the example of maybe we get excited that somebody comes in and that's going to be my next silver. When you ask them like, hey, what are you looking to get out of Young Living? And all they talk about is products. Like, I want to try this product. I want to try this. I want to lose weight. I want to do this. Maybe they're not interested in building a business. And that's okay. I mean, Gary's mission was to get oils in every single household. It was not to build a business first. Granted, that will benefit your business, but if that's not their goal, that's okay. But allow them to answer those questions for them so that they can understand where they fit in our Young Living family. So hopefully you guys found this information of benefit. I didn't have a fancy slideshow prepared like my wife. She's the one who's good at that. But you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. I'm on Instagram. Instagram is Man on the Move 727. Man on the Move 32. I'm sorry. And feel free to listen to our podcast. We talk a little bit more about these kinds of topics. So I want to thank everybody for their time, and we're going to turn our attention back over to our MC/host.